watching the It's Her Time podcast with Cody and Jess. Hi, welcome back to the It's Her Time podcast. My name is Cody Sanders, and I'm a holistic health practitioner and functional nutritionist and the host of this show. And today's episode is all about what is chronic fatigue? How do we know if we have it? What can we do about it? And I have a special guest that's going to be joining this conversation. Her name is Allison Samon, and she is also a functional nutritionist, and she is so knowledgeable. She's an amazing wealth of knowledge that is going to be able to share so many tips and give us a roadmap of what we need to be paying attention to, what tests we should be doing, and things like that, so that we can be our own best health advocates. But before we get into this exciting episode, let's join Jess for a Mixers Girls Say.
On today's Mixers Girls Say, we're actually going to share some customer testimonials. The reason why we love to share customer testimonials is because obviously the two of us are incredibly passionate about our Mixers products. Yeah. But we recognize, for those of you listening, how powerful a testimonial can be for you knowing that our products actually are out there improving lives.
Yes.
So we're going to share some personal experiences from customers and the feedback that they've given us.
We love it when you guys write into us. Thank you so much, first of all, for taking the time to do that. Okay, this first testimonial is from a girl named Bailey. She says, prior to taking her time, I had always had serious cramps that would lead me to throwing up. Since I started taking her time, I have had very minimal cramps. I couldn't be more happy with the product.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, hallelujah. That was my daughter. She would every month be throwing up because her cramps were so bad. And her time absolutely can help with that.
Good.
Okay. This one is from Carrie. I'll read two and then I'm going to have you read two. Is that
perfect.
Cool? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So she is also, I think about her time. She says, I've only been using the product for a few weeks, but I have already noticed a difference with my period, even after coming off of birth control, which I know a lot of you girls ask about. She says, less cramping, no bloating, and no more PMS symptoms. Thank you, Carrie.
Yes. Hallelujah.
That's awesome.
Okay, this is actually a review for Her Digest, which is a product that has been flying.
We love Her Digest.
We love it.
Yep.
I tried Her Digest for my stomach problems, and it is such an amazing product. It helps my gut health so much, and I can't imagine my life without it. Kelsey.
Nice.
We love that.
Yep.
Next, I started taking Her Multi just since you're supposed to be taking vitamins, and I hate swallowing pills. And wow, so great and so yummy. Highly recommended, from Sherry. That's the whole reason why we have our own multivitamin, is because sometimes just swallowing all those pills is not enjoyable. And at Mixers, we love to make our products delicious, fun, easy to use, and highly effective and absorbable.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. And I wanted to share one little thing that also sets our multivitamin apart from the rest, is that there's a lot of multivitamins that are out there that are actually hormone disruptive. And people don't always know that. The ingredients or the sources that they use for the different vitamins and minerals, our body doesn't always know how to assimilate and utilize, and can cause toxicity. And so we love that Her Multi provides all of the nutrients that your body needs, all the vitamins and minerals that your body needs, in a highly absorbable form, like Jess just said, and in ways that will actually nourish your body and help to support your hormonal health as well.
Yep. Now we'll go into the episode. Mixers is a company made for women by women. Each of our products have been carefully and lovingly crafted to support you in all stages of your life, providing you with the optimal health you deserve. Each ingredient we handpick is 100% all natural, backed by science, and chosen specifically to better your life physically, mentally, and hormonally. Each product empowers your body to take charge of its monthly hormonal shift and flows, empowering you to live life to the fullest. Let Mixers take care of your needs from sunup to sundown, and you take care of the rest. Check us out at mixers.com, Mixhers.
All right, ladies, I can't wait for you to actually hear from Allison herself a little bit about her and her background and what we're going to be talking about today. Say hi to our audience, Allison.
Hello, audience. It's so great to be here with all of you ladies.
It's good to have you here. You're from LA, and tell us a little bit about you.
I should say I live in LA. I'm not from LA. It's so funny how I still identify with being a Jersey girl. So I'm from New Jersey, even though I've been in LA for 15 years, but I have to clarify that. So sorry.
No, you must. You're proud New Jersey, local girl, now living in LA. Yes.
And when I get fired up, like these topics that we're talking about, it comes out. So people are like, are you sure you're from LA? No, I'm not.
No, well, good. I'm going to love the fire because this is going to be a really good episode. Something that I feel like for me personally, as a holistic health practitioner and functional nutritionist, and then as the CPO of Mixers, I get a lot of feedback from a lot of women who are suffering a lot with that feeling of absolute exhaustion. We call it like bone tiredness. Like it's just, they don't understand what it is, why they feel like that. They're not sure if it has to do with just like, oh, we're just getting older. This is just, like what to expect at this point in life or whatnot. But we're going to get into that about what this means. Why are we feeling like all of this? And, and so much more. So I'm really excited to kind of just get going on this conversation.
Yeah, I dig it. Yeah, we hear that a lot. It's age related. Mm-hmm. And I get offended by that.
Yeah, right?
Like, now that I'm in my 40s, it's offensive because I just feel like age is just a number, and age is really everything you've done to yourself up until now. Mm-hmm. And so we have an opportunity every day to change what we're doing to ourselves. And our cells are constantly turning over. They're constantly changing. So we can actually change the information that we feed it. Literally, that's what food is information that tells your cells what to do. And so we can actually kind of age in reverse.
Mm-hmm. And I love that.
Yeah. And so we're definitely in alignment with our work and what our come from is in terms of like food being medicine. And so when you're fatigued, you have to take a look at so many different things. It could be emotionally fatigued because of draining situations and stressful situations. And there's a lot going on right now in the world. And that is just really heavy. And so that can weigh on us. And also it can be other things. It can be things that are in your environment that are physically affecting you hormonally, that are just adding toxins into your body that are throwing off that body burden, which can also make you fatigued because there's just so much. Like our bodies are pretty brilliant. They're designed miraculously in that they are constantly detoxifying for us every single day. And yet we as humans always find a way to like, you can do that? Well, how about this? And how about this? And how about this? And so the influx of toxins that we're putting in on and around us. So I'm not just talking about like pollution. Like I live in Los Angeles, so there's a lot of cars and that kind of pollution. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, products, stuff that we might in our quest to look better and feel better or putting stuff on that actually are hormone disruptors or actually causing respiratory distress or inflammation in your body. And so that brings me to the other most important thing is, are you bringing in foods that are causing inflammation in your body?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's setting up this whole cascade of hormonal imbalances that ultimately have you feeling fatigued. And we can talk about that more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because it does downstream, it is going to affect all of us hormonally, but it is so true. There's so many things that are affecting. And I think every person that's listening today has had a time in their life that they are feeling like more worn down, run down than they usually are. But then you get to the point where there's so many of us out there that are feeling like that the second we wake up. We literally we don't feel like we got enough sleep. We don't feel like we have energy to even function throughout the day. And so there's a difference, but it is all related because it starts kind of exactly what you're just talking about with Allison. It starts there. And if we don't kind of hit it head on there, then, down the road, this is kind of something that will get harder and harder for us to overcome. And so I think that we've addressed a lot of the reasons about why do women feel so tired all the time and like they're running on empty all the time. And these are just some of the environmental factors, the emotional factors and things like that. And so I think it's important to just be aware of, I like how you said the word burden. Like, how are we burdening ourselves? And is that what's maybe slowing us down a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, well, and you just popped into my head when you were just talking. So for women, I feel like women always have that burden, like societal burden, that we have to do it all and we try to do it all. And for women who are also moms and also have careers, there's that doing it all. And it's possible, yet not possible to do it all.
No, it's true. We put so much pressure on ourselves. And I'm included in that. Like I remember late 30s, running a business, raising teenage kids that were, busy. And I was so tired. And I was running a gym and doing some personal training and all of this. And I was so tired. And I thought, well, no wonder I'm tired because I'm doing so much. This just makes sense. But then it got to the point where all that doing totally made me crash. And I literally was bedbound. And it really woke me up on how I was doing, things that were so like healthy, like exercising and training and eating, like healthy, clean foods and stuff like that. But it actually was ruining my health in a way. And so I did have to take a big look at everything that was fueling me and also draining me in my life, and really prioritize how to balance both and how to really just give myself a break, honestly, get rid of some of the expectations that I had put on myself, and society puts on you, but to put on myself of what it is that was realistic and was actually going to be supporting my overall health and well-being.
Yeah. 100%. And then on top of that is, when you mentioned, I'm eating all of these clean, healthy foods. And I hear that all of the time. I'm eating so well, I'm exercising, and yet I still feel terrible. I still have no energy. I'm just like, oh. And at that point, we have to take a look at, well, what exactly are you eating?
Right.
Because one food or healthy, a healthy food can be healthy for majority of the population, but maybe not you.
Right.
And so perhaps you are sensitive to this food or a variety of foods. And that's like an underlying issue for why you are feeling so fatigued.
Mm-hmm.
And we overlook that because we think, conventional medicine, they're very slow to look at food as a possible trigger. If you're not allergic to it, an IgE reaction where you're having, instant rash or anaphylaxis, you're not allergic to this food. The food is not a problem.
Right.
It's something else. You need to have more rest, or you need to, eat less, whatever it is, exercise more. How much more can I do?
Yeah, exactly.
But there is, food sensitivity. So it's a different immune response in the body. And they're less studied because they're more difficult to diagnose, because with an IgE allergy reaction, you're having that immediate response. But an IgG reaction, it could take up to 3 days. So you could have eaten a food 3 days ago that you are reacting to and you can't remember. Well, I don't know. Was it the green beans that I had the other day? It couldn't be that potato. I mean, I never have potato. It couldn't be that, or whatever it is. I mean, I've had things as innocuous as mango,
right?
Chocolate, something like your favorite thing,
sad.
Chocolate.
It's so sad.
I know. And there's a guy I'm working with, and he told me yesterday that he was starting to suspect bananas because he has them every day and loves them every day. And then we did some testing and he got the results back and he's like, sure enough, bananas were in the red. And it's often something that you eat the most.
Right.
Because, we're talking about all of the stressors and all of the body burden. At some point, when your digestive system, your gut was compromised due to stress or aging or pollution or foods that are inflammatory, you start to develop what is called a leaky gut situation. And so when you're eating these foods these otherwise healthy foods that you're eating all of the time, because they're so good for you and you love them.
Yeah.
The undigested proteins from those foods get into your bloodstream where they don't belong.
No.
They're supposed to get broken down. And so your immune system is like, intruder, pathogen. We have to kill this thing. And meanwhile, it's banana. It's broccoli. It's mango. Like, this is perfectly fine. Not when it's in your bloodstream. It's seen as other. It's tagged as other. And so every other time that you're having banana or whatever that food is, you're having an immune response, causing inflammation. And then when you have this inflammation, it's causing there's a histamine response, which then causes inflammation. Because it's an attack. The histamine response is trying to protect you. It's causing this inflammation to resolve this attack from other. And then to bring down the inflammation, your adrenals are like, okay, well, let's release some cortisol because we have to bring this inflammation down. Okay, great. Like, that's how it normally works. And that's usually fine. Mm-hmm. Except when you're doing it every day.
When it's chronic.
All the time. Yep. Chronic. Yep. Yeah. And so suddenly you have elevated cortisol all the time. And so now you and me and everyone else is feeling so fatigued.
Right. Yeah.
Doing all of the right things.
Doing all of the right things. So I totally, everything you just said was gold right then. I hope everybody was really paying attention, because I think this is something that is easily missed, when we are out there looking and seeking solutions for why we are all of a sudden not feeling like ourselves. We don't have that same kind of energy that we used to. And so it sounds to me, Allison, that one of the first things that you like to look at when you're working with your clients is what's going on with their, gut health and maybe food sensitivities and things like that. So are there some tests that you recommend that our listeners, if they go and find, if they go and work with their practitioner, what is it that they should be asking for?
Well, I wouldn't start off with testing.
Okay.
I think it's a really good idea first to understand what it is that you're doing in your day-to-day.
Okay.
So I like to use a food, mood, poop log.
Great. Food, mood, poop log.
Food, mood, and poop. It's so important to track that, to get to know you, get to know your habits, get to know what are you really eating, because you're not going to remember. You're really busy.
It's true.
And hopefully you're eating throughout the day and you're eating a bunch of different things. And so you're not going to remember everything, and you're not expected to, which is why when we're troubleshooting something, if you're having fatigue, or if you're having irritable bowel, or if you're having weight gain or brain fog, just whatever symptoms you have, chronic pain, let's first take a look at, well, what exactly are you doing? Are you even pooping? Because sometimes people forget. Yeah, I go. Well,
my goodness, though.
The other day.
Mm-hmm. Like only a couple times a week. I know, it's crazy. Like, we are such a constipated nation, honestly. Like, we have an issue with pooping, especially as girls for some reason.
I used to think it was okay. Like, I didn't want anybody to know that I pooped. So the fact that I used to go like 2 or 3 times a week, I used to be in a completely different career. I used to work in television. And so my schedule was really busy. I'm having 12 to 20-hour days. And so pooping was very inconvenient. If it didn't happen in the morning when I left, or at night when I got home, there's not time for that. And spoiler alert, when you get your digestive system and everything functioning optimally, it doesn't take a long time. So it could be 5 minutes in and out and you're good. But when you're constipated, it can take a long time. People sit with their newspaper and they're just in there. But that's how it used to be. And so I felt it was, I don't mind that I don't go. Like, who has time to go? And I didn't want anybody I was dating to know that I pooped. Like, girls don't poop.
No.
Come on. Oh. And now when I talk about poop every single day, and we're talking about pooping 1 to 3 times a day,
you're a proud like, pooper. What? Yeah.
Proud pooper. Yeah. Right. And looking at it, what does it look like? How did it come out? How did it feel when it came out? Right.
Yes.
These are important things we want to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
No, it's so true. And I love that you're talking about this. That's just what it is. It's like, it's easy information that it's like paying attention to our periods. We talk a lot about on this podcast how important it is to pay attention to our periods, and how it can tell us so much about what's going on with our overall health. Well, hello, same with our poop. And there's so much that we can learn, and getting a little journal going, like you're saying, documenting it and paying attention. When you do go to see your practitioner or your doctor, having that information in hand is really empowering, really powerful, because you're going to not just be guessing. You're going to be able to just get right to it and be like, this is what's been going on for the last 4 weeks or however long. Yeah. And I don't feel well. So what do you think? And now they've got more information in their hands so they can help guide you a little bit easier.
Because if you have just a short amount of time with your practitioner, which is generally the case,
yes.
You want to be your own advocate and have those targeted questions and know, well, this is what I'm thinking. Is this so strange? But I seem to be constipated whenever I have dairy. But I know that I've been told I should have dairy for the calcium. So, but I'm having the dairy and also, there's protein. So, but I'm constipated every time. So I don't know, should I remove the dairy or like what? What's this? Or I notice that I'm breaking out in my skin. When, are you seeing a pattern? And that's what should happen is a pattern will emerge. You don't get good sleep when you miss these meals or you have this, fruit. Like maybe it's a sugar overload for you. And I've heard you talk before on this podcast about bioindividuality. And it's so important. There is no one size fits all. And so by tracking, you get to know you. And it's empowering to know, oh, wow. I didn't think that was an issue, but it's kind of showing me that maybe it is, and maybe I should do something. And maybe I need to talk to somebody about, okay, well, if I'm pulling out dairy, well, then what do I do? How do I get my calcium and my protein and all of that? And it's actually kind of easy, really easy to do without dairy. But a lot of times we don't feel like we can, or we're so used to it and like, oh no, it's going to change.
It's so true.
For the better.
Yeah, for the better. It's worth it. So doing kind of, without going straight into the testing, like you're saying, implementing an elimination diet is maybe something that would be the next step. So first observing, like you're saying, kind of paying attention to some of the things that you're doing on a consistent basis, and then seeing if there are symptoms that are consistently showing up, that pattern that you're talking about. Yeah. And then going into maybe doing somewhat of an elimination diet is with some of the most common, like triggering types of foods that most people maybe that they might not be allergic to, but most people are sensitive to. So like dairy and gluten and soy, things like that are pretty common. And so if you can remove those from your diet and then start paying attention to your poop, your mood, and what was the other one?
That's it. Your food, your mood, your poop. Yeah.
Your food. There you go. But
food. Most important.
Most important.
Yeah. Almost 100% of the time, I will say if there's gluten and dairy in your diet, pull it out.
Yeah.
Even if there's no known allergy, even if you don't have any digestive distress, because when you have inflammation, it's a fact, gluten and dairy cause inflammation in your gut. It may not manifest as digestive symptoms for you. You might not have constipation. You might not have diarrhea. You might not have bloating, but you may have other things like hormonal imbalance, like period issues, like fatigue, brain fog, joint pain, acne. All of these things can be because you're having inflammation here, but I didn't have any digestive. I know, me neither.
Yeah.
And yet I found out when I then did the testing. So I do use testing. As a functional nutrition practitioner, I do use testing, but I don't start there because, again, we want to get to know you first. And there's things that you can ameliorate just by using diet and lifestyle. We use the testing when either we're stuck or we're confirming something, because there are a lot of, so I work in the chronic illness population, autoimmune, and there are like autoimmune diet protocols that are really severe. FODMAP diet, like these are, and so they're effective, but they're meant to be used therapeutically for a short amount of time. And I get people who are on these diets for 3 years, 6 years, and it's like, you're so deficient and depleted. So another reason why you could be fatigued is you're nutrient deficient. So it's like you're either not taking in enough nutrients or you're not able to absorb the nutrients that you bring in. So it's both. For a lot of people in my population, it's both.
Right.
And so we want to first identify if there are diet and lifestyle changes that we can make to start to feel better. We want to make sure that you are not restricting yourself just because you heard that, well, people with my symptoms or this diagnosis, I should eliminate all of these things. Well, ultimately, we want you to have the biggest, broadest diet you can have with the most diversity and not eliminating food groups, except for dairy. It's not really a food group. I don't know why it is. This is my personal opinion.
Hey, I'm with you on that.
Okay. But so by doing the food sensitivity testing, we can then free you from, I can have nuts and seeds, which are so good for getting in those minerals, the calcium, protein, fat, good fats, fiber. So bringing those back in. And so that's when I like to use it is, okay, you're super restrictive. I don't think we need to do that anymore. Let's see what you really need to eliminate and what you can bring back in. And it's usually just like, and sometimes it's, oh no, I lost chocolate.
Yes.
And other times it's, you know what? Since it's been out of my diet, I actually feel so much better. So it's been real. It's been great. And we'll find other things that we can do instead.
Yeah. I mean, feeling good. Some people don't always recognize how bad they feel until they start feeling good, and doing an elimination diet. And yes, there are some extreme ones out there that can feel very deprivational. And like you said, and then if they're done for too long can actually exacerbate some of the issues that you're dealing with. But giving it a try at the beginning and just kind of learning to see how your body responds to removing some of these inflammatory foods. And then, recognizing if as you start reintroducing them possibly again, like if there is a trigger, there. And so it gives you just a lot of feedback, a lot of information. And then also just removing some of these inflammatory foods for a time gives your body actually a chance to reduce some of the inflammation. And that alone is going to help with exactly what we're talking about today. Most of all is that fatigue, because I feel like you mentioned how, when we think of our symptoms that are associated with our diet, we do always think that it's supposed to show up and manifest itself as digestive issues. But I would say probably, I don't know if I am correct on this, but off the top of my head, the people that I worked with, I would be saying like probably 70% of the people that I worked with, they didn't have any digestive issues. They didn't have any symptoms that were digestive. It was the chronic fatigue. It was the achy joints. It was that bone tiredness, like I was talking about, or the brain fog. So they never really thought and put two and two together that like, oh, this could possibly have to do with dairy, or this could possibly do with the gluten that I'm ingesting every single day, things like that. And so I like that we're having this conversation so that our listeners can just be a little bit more aware that there are other ways that sensitivity can show up as symptoms for our body.
Yeah. 100%. And it, again, it's all about empowerment. Yeah. And as women, we're often, this as a, because you make products, most products or supplements are not even tested on women. You make products for women, which is why I love this. I don't know if you know how I actually came to meet you guys.
No,
did you
tell
know
me.
that?
No, I don't know the background. I'd love to hear. But then I want you to get back.
We'll get back.
Come back.
Yeah. This is just, I loved that it was a women's own. Anyway, so I went to I'm calling it Baby Coachella. It wasn't Coachella, but it was this big family fun day here in LA. And we went and there was this booth. And they said, you want to try some mixers? I'm like, what's this? I had never heard of it. And because I'm a functional nutritionist, I'm constantly trying products, always on the lookout for things that are going to make you feel better, that are clean, that are easy, make our lives better, make us feel better, and that are tasty and no crap. Right. Yes. And so I was like, I don't know what this is. Tell me more. And I tried it. And I was like, this is so good. It was a really hot day. Like it had been really cool. And then suddenly it was warm, like the sun, clouds parted, and it was like beating down. And so it was so refreshing. And I have a 4-year-old. He was 3 at the time. And so he's running over and just, we cleared you out of your freebies. But then I left with a whole bunch. But so getting back to what we were talking about. So supplements are usually tested on men, 150-pound men.
Yep.
So women might not be that size. Women have different hormones. Women men's hormones hormones fluctuate too. We forget about that. That fluctuates, and that they need hormone balancing just as much as women do. But it's different. They have different.
Yes. The rhythm is different. Yes.
Correct. Mm-hmm. But so we forget about this. And so when you are tracking, when you are knowing what is working for you and what is not, so that you can start to make those changes, you can feel confident in what you are doing. Because I think so often we just feel lost. Like, I don't know. There's so much out there. There's so much information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's books and YouTube videos and social media, and then plus all of the products. And it's like, I don't know. Start simply.
Mm-hmm.
We use the products. I love supplements. I love products, but I don't start there.
Right.
Start with the food that you eat. We bring in the stuff if you are deficient in something, you are bringing yourself stuff. It's supplementing an already healthy diet. You're bringing yourself to sufficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So where you are deficient because of you're always on the go, because of stressors in your life, be it work, financial, the world, whatever it is, you have kids, like it's just, there's a sick pet, sick parent, whatever. There's stressors. So being always on the go, having stressors, environmental stuff that you didn't realize. Oh, my cookware. Oh, my personal care. Oh, I didn't know. The foods that you're eating and you're reacting to. So all of these things can be stressors on the body, then can make you deficient in things like magnesium, things like zinc, things like iron. You can then bring in and also throw your hormones off balance. And then you bring in the supplements.
Mm-hmm.
To fill that gap, bring you into balance much faster.
Yes.
Because if it was just food alone, which obviously that's what we want ultimately, but if it were just food alone, then you would feel great.
Mm-hmm.
Eating, doing all the right things, right? It's because you have these deficiencies, so you need the things to bring in. You'll bounce back faster and feel better faster and be more resilient in the face of all of these things that you're constantly having to fight off every day.
Yes. I mean, food first always, because I feel like that's something that we're just kind of used to as a society. When we aren't feeling well, we just want a quick fix. And so sometimes we do turn to the supplements, to be that quick fix for us. But when it comes to supplementation, it will never be a quick fix because it does take time to build up those nutrients and to become sufficient in our nutrient load. And so it's so important. And I'm so glad that you brought up that point, because I am always just preaching that to, I created the Mixers products with the same mindset that you just expressed, when you're always looking for something that is, designed for women and that is going to be highly absorbable, is going to be easy and convenient and taste good so that it's motivating to do on a consistent basis. That's absolutely why we created Mixers. And that's so important. But I don't ever want anybody to think that just taking the supplements is the end all be all. It is a tool that can help us as we are trying to address root cause of our chronic fatigue, for instance, or whatever else it is that we're dealing with. If we are having food intolerances and we are dealing with inflammation, then most likely our digestive system isn't going to be functioning optimally. And so even if we are eating really healthy foods, which is so great, and we're eliminating some of those high inflammatory foods, we might still not be able to break down that food and to utilize the nutrients and absorb those nutrients as efficiently as we can once we kind of reduce that inflammation. So it goes hand in hand. It goes into that, elimination, reducing inflammation, and then supplementation so that we can help to fill in some of those gaps of the nutrients that are commonly, deficient when we are experiencing symptoms like chronic fatigue. And so it's just a whole approach to it. So I'm so glad that you brought all of that up.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So let's go into a little bit, because I know we've talked about some of the environmental factors, and the diet choices and things like that play into and could be major causes of chronic fatigue. But are you willing to maybe go into a little bit about talking about some of the other factors that come into play when it comes to what could be a cause or a main cause for chronic fatigue?
So you're talking about like environmentally?
Well, I'm wondering, I just know that for me, when I have been working with clients, that a lot of times it can be, there's a lot of viral or bacterial, infections that could be going on.
Yeah.
And so, and that can be like Epstein-Barr, mononucleosis, or even COVID. Like long COVID right now is obviously something that's a huge driver. And so let's say that we, I'm just trying to take the listeners through kind of a different, steps that they could take. Start here. Let's rule some of this out. See if you feel better. But if maybe there's something that's still not feeling right, then this could be another area that we should have you look into and be aware of.
Yeah. So I love that you said taking you through the steps, because there is an order to things. You don't just automatically assume gut infection. You, again, start with the food, start with your tracking, see if there's food sensitivities, there's testing. There's 2 tests in particular that I like to use, depending on how in depth you want to go. And then I usually look at, okay, so now that we've done that, then we can balance hormones, because if your hormones aren't balanced, you are going to feel that fatigue. And we talked about it a little bit. And then also, when you're feeling fatigue, you usually instinctively reach for sugar, because sugar will give you that boost.
Gives you a quick fix.
It's the quick hit, and you need that. But then that also ultimately is going to cause fatigue, because then you're going to be having these crashes. You have like the blood sugar spike, and then you have insulin that brings it down. And so that whole thing, it's addicting. Sugar is addicting. And here's the other thing. So I'm taking you on this journey, because it's a segue. So we now have all of this hormonal imbalance. We're addicted to sugar, and sugar is not the only culprit, but there's a lot of opportunistic bugs in our digestive tract who love sugar. So give me more sugar. So your brain is loving it, because you're getting that dopamine hit. And then these bugs are like, yeah, give me more, give me more, give me more. And so you're actually having a lot of dysbiosis in your gut. And so really, it all comes back to the gut.
It does. It's so true. So true.
So it could be viruses. You mentioned EBV. So Epstein-Barr, most of us are living with it.
Yeah.
And it's not an issue.
But it's just dormant.
In the face of in the face of COVID, in the face of poor diet, in the face of stressors, all of these things, then it can reactivate it. And if your gut microbiome is imbalanced, it gives rise to opportunistic viruses, or just the numbers are skewed. And I saw there's a gastroenterologist that I heard speaking once, and he showed a video on a microscopic lens of your microbiome, because they call them gangs. Call them gangs. So if you think about like in the real world, you actually can see like the bad guys crowding up on the good guys, having them up against your intestinal wall.
Crazy.
So
that's cool,
you
though.
think about, And so like your inner world really is a reflection of the outer world, which is why we want the diversity, and we want everyone to get along. And it's okay to have some bad guys, but you want more good guys.
Right.
And so at that point, then we have to look at, okay, you're still not getting better. We've been working on your adrenals. We're working on your hormones, your sex hormones. We're working on the inflammatory foods. That's clear. The diet is good. We're working on the mental. The mindset is huge, because if this is stressed out and inflamed also, this is going to be stressed out and inflamed. And so then we get to infection, because absolutely that could be draining us. There's a war going on. Our bodies are still working primordially.
Right.
Like we are still have that, like that primal, if there's a war, if your body is in danger, whether it's perceived or real. So real infection in your gut, perceived, I'm not going to get that job. I am so afraid of, I don't know, what's happening with this election, whatever it is in your head. So that is not necessarily a true fear, but it gives us anxiety. It allows, your body is not going to worry about anything else, resolving pain, digesting food where you need to absorb the nutrients to heal those tissues and repair and feel better and have more energy. Like it's just running. You're just like on adrenaline going.
Survival mode.
And survival mode. And so that actually makes this worse. because you're just trying to survive. Like that's it. And so pooping, like none of that matters just as long as you're alive. And so like, yay, I'm alive, but I feel terrible.
Yeah.
So then we want to look at, and so then here comes the testing again. Stool testing. There's different things. Urine testing, stool testing, mold. That's huge, huge. And so these are all things that, if you can't get out of bed and you just, no matter what you do, you're just dragging and you just can't get out of this funk and you just want to sleep all the time, you could have mold. Like it's insidious in your homes and also in the body. And also a lot of these viruses like to hide. So we were so positive before, not to get all like downer, but they do. And so sometimes even on a stool test, they're not there. Like you don't see it, but you actually still have it. And you have to do some of the cleaning up work, which is why I say there's steps. We start here because you have to make this environment inhospitable for these bugs, for whether it's candida. You start cleaning up your diet, even if you're not on a candida diet or a candida cleanse, they start to get pissed off and die, right? Yeah. Because they want a more acidic environment. We want it more alkaline. We want the acidity to break down the foods in our stomach, but in the digestive tract, we don't want it acidic. And yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's kind of like not just a path, like a linear path. It's it's a cycle. You know what I mean? All of this. And so I love that there's steps. And I think it's so helpful for the way that you're laying it out like that, because I do think in our minds, we can go this and then this and then this, but it does
to this.
But then it all comes back. And so I think that that's really helpful. And I also think it's really hopeful because I feel like it helps people realize that like, there is a lot we can do, and it's going to take some time, and we're going to have to approach things, in all these different directions, but we're all going to come back to, to this part right here of the body, like taking care of our gut health. And it's so true. It does always come back to the gut, starts with the gut, comes back to the gut.
And and when it's chronic fatigue, there's not just one thing, but I think a lot of people forget about the food piece.
Yeah.
And then all the other things can relate back to that. And the infection relates back to that. And how it got there in the first place, that's something that we unpack together and kind of build this timeline. Like, what is the root cause? Oh, it was that car accident that you had 10 years ago. Oh, it was that childbirth you had.
Right.
It was your birth, like when you were born and it didn't go so well. I mean, sometimes it goes all the way back 40, 50 years for people. And they've been struggling with this and didn't realize it was a thing. And now suddenly they have their life back and they have all of this energy because for the first time, and there's a woman, she's in her 40s, I'm working with her right now. She's finally pooping regularly every day. She didn't think it was she was born constipated. She was born constipated. And so for 45 years, she didn't think that, she was told it would never be possible for her. Her naturopath, I guess, told her it would never be possible for her.
Yeah. So if you're like somebody like this woman, like I just think that this is really helpful to hear because it is true. I mean, and I will say the things that kind of factor into this that are very common for many of us and me included. Many of the women that are struggling with this kind of issue where they're so constipated, like they've been constipated their whole lives, most of them have a couple different things. First of all, maybe while their mother was pregnant with them, they didn't get a good, there wasn't a diverse diet. And then perhaps they were born not vaginally, but like C-section. And so they didn't receive all of that healthy, beneficial bacteria through the birth process. And then if maybe the mother decided to not nurse and did more bottle feeding, then again, so they're just, the gut's not being populated the way that nature intends it to be. And then I know for me personally, like I had infections all the time as a little girl. And so I was on an antibiotic like all the time, and so there's a lot of these things that factor in that when you do kind of think of your health history, if you can even go back to that and have that information to share with your practitioner, it is so there's so much we can understand about that. And so, so addressing that, realizing, okay, it's all about our focus is not all, but a lot of our focus is going to be on rebuilding then that good bacteria in the gut, repopulating, and we're actually populating the gut with some good bacteria. Yeah. And it is interesting how, when people start to be able to actually poop and they aren't constipated anymore, like it's such a relief because obviously that's one of our body's main detoxification pathways. And, if you think of like the bucket effect, it's maybe, the bucket keeps filling. And that's when we start feeling this chronic fatigue because our bucket's now overflowing and it hasn't had the ability to like empty itself. And so if you can help support the body in emptying, then our body is, like you said at the beginning of this conversation, Allison, it is beautifully designed to be able to handle this stress and the things that we're exposed to and all of that. It's designed to, function in a dirty world, honestly. Yeah. It's just managing our what we can. It's managing what we can and helping our body, supporting the natural detoxification processes as much as possible.
Yeah. Yep. Love your liver. We didn't really talk about liver, but love your liver because it's working for you. And that's another thing. If you're chronically fatigued, you could have liver congestion. So from all of those other things that we've been talking about. Yeah.
I know. We could literally have such a long conversation about all of this. I'm glad that we at least talked about the gut side of it. But girls, if you're, we'll have other conversations on this podcast and possibly we can have Allison back again and we'll talk about loving up on our livers because that is huge. But if you just look at all of our different detoxification, systems and organs and things like that and recognize that there is probably going to be attention needed in all of those different areas, but simplifying it and coming back to some of the things that Allison shared with us about, looking and seeing what's going on with our diet, paying attention to our own body's signals, the poop, all of that, our moods, because the gut and brain are so connected, all of that. So very helpful.
Yeah. I'm so glad. Yep.
Yeah. Well, anything else, any last wisdom nuggets that you want to share with us?
Just pay attention to what your body is telling you because it is constantly trying to communicate with you. And we're so busy, we don't pay attention. That's what the Food Mood Poop Journal helps you to do. A lot of times we just think that it's nothing, or it's my age, or it's because I'm a mom, but it's actually your body talking to you and you're dismissing it. So when you will start to learn, oh, that's not a good feeling. And then you'll start to learn, oh yeah, my knees don't hurt when I move. I don't feel my head on my body. So pay attention to your body, get to know her. She loves you. Love her back.
Oh, such good words to end this conversation. It's so important because it's true. We are our own best health advocates, and the better we can get to know ourselves and our bodies, and the better we can support. So thank you so much. You've been such a fun guest. This has been a really great conversation. So I've just absolutely loved this conversation. I want to make sure that our community has an opportunity to connect with you more because you are a wealth of knowledge. So what are some of the best ways that our audience can follow along and get to know you better?
Yeah, I love that. So I am Health Allie, ALLIE, Health Allie on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And you can always go to AllisonSamon.com. And I have a free gift for your listeners. And it's the roadmap to chronic illness recovery. So we've been talking a lot about going through step by step. Well, here's a way for you to go step by step and start that process on your own.
Amazing. That's so generous. To have that roadmap is going to be so valuable. So thank you so much. That's so wonderful. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Girls, if you enjoyed this conversation, I always ask you to share it with the girls in your life because sharing is caring. It's also so important because we all need to know this information so that we can show up in life as our very best selves, because health is wealth. And it's so important for us to pay attention to the signs and signals that our body's giving us, and then to be able to give that tender love and care back to our bodies, because our bodies do so much for us. So please share these episodes. Let's empower one another. And until next week, I hope you guys all have a very happy and healthy week. Thanks so much, Allison. We appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me.